So we all, I think a lot of us, certainly me, feel something is broken today. Like some shift has happened with the introduction of AI, and not a lot of voices are talking about it. So the first problem I see is that we feel that AI is out for our jobs. So this is a recent study from Stanford where entry-level workers in AI exposed occupations that was actually early stage development and customer support, they saw 13% decline in employment. And actually, this was for jobs that were more the automated parts that AI can replace and less the places AI enhanced your abilities. And we can easily see this affecting marketing folks like us. Second problem we feel, especially if we're content people, is that AI is not as good as humans. So a recent study published on Time, in Time magazine, developers estimated that AI will improve their abilities by 20%, where actually it declined. And we can kind of know why this happens. When you prompt AI with your one shot, you expect to get the right answer right away. Then you start the iteration. Sometimes it takes you more time and you kind of also get confused or biased by AI. What's the solution to this? So I think one wrong solution is just thinking about replacing everything you do. You look at your whole process of working and everything you grow tired and you need a brief, you use AI, outline AI. It's kind of similar for everything, a similar approach. I think another wrong solution is just going into, okay, I need to shift. I need to change my profession. I need to start vibe coding. I need to start learning prompt engineering. I'm not saying it's wrong to learn all those skills, but essentially we do have limited capacity. So I think this shouldn't be the main effort. We still need to develop. There's so much to learn and to develop as marketers. So what's the alternative that we're suggesting here? Well, basically, it's the whole framework of thinking of your human skills, your professional skills, and developing that. But for this specific workshop, we're going to talk about developing your one source of truth. We're going to talk about a method for positioning and a method for persona research. And we're actually going to talk about the in-depth, the intricacies of how you're going to do it. So why one source of truth? When you ask AI, what's the best Beatles album? What's the current best vacuum cleaner to choose? One day it will answer one thing, another thing. AI doesn't have the ability to have a certain strategy, a certain point of view, hypothesis, which as professionals we have. So we're going to talk about how you develop that, validate that, align it with everyone, and actually sticking to it. So I'm gonna start with the positioning method, but I want to mention that this is one framework, and basically there are a lot of frameworks, but I want you to see also beyond the framework how I approach the framework and how we use it. So a framework for positioning. Positioning is basically where you're trying to figure out what is the product, why is the product special, what's unique about it, and why should customers care and eventually buy. We're actually using April Dunford. She's a positioning expert. April Dunford's method, where she lists 5 steps. We're going to go through every step of the process where you're basically figuring out who your competitors are, what are your features, what are your benefits, and eventually what's the best fit customer. So I want to say something. I think things were kind of easier in the past, but this was unintentional. So why are things harder now or feel harder? In the past, let's say you had a new website project, and you wanted to build your source of truth. The easy thing is there was no alternative. You had to have a conversation with the CEO. You didn't just want to copy the competitors. So you had to sit down with the CEO, and unintentionally, you did the right strategic effort of getting the source of truth from one of the best people to figure it out. Yeah. And today in the AI era, we don't have to go through that step. We can go to ChatGPT and just ask it, but then we lose a very important step. It takes time to interview the CEO or the stakeholder, but it's so important. What happens if you don't follow this strategy, if you don't kind of research and validate everything that you're doing, you're going to end up with very generic kind of, whether it's no matter what the marketing asset you're talking about. I'm going to talk about websites. And I want to share an example. So this is the hero section of Riverside. Now, I don't know if someone here is working for Riverside, so my apologies, but about criticizing them. But basically, I think it's not so good. Let's examine the hero line. Create your best content yet. Does this give me any information about what the product is? Why is it's important? Why is it better than the competitors? And then I go on to the description. Your all-in-one studio to record in high quality, edit in a flash, and go live with a bang. All with AI that works with you. You can kind of feel that AI created this title. So all-in-one, very cliche and unvalidated, high quality video. Like, what is not high quality? Edit in a flash. That's actually funny because I use this product, and the biggest disadvantage is that it's not fast. It takes a long time for videos to edit. Go live with a bang. That doesn't mean anything. An AI that works for you, that can be applied to any startup. Now, I want to go to a competitor that I actually also transferred recently to, which is Descript. They do the same thing, video editing, video editor. And right off the hero section, the only AI editor for every kind of video. So they were able to create an onlyness statement, like the only, that's a bold statement, but also it gives you a lot of information about AI video editor for every kind of video. So we know there are a lot of videos like this. What we're doing here is a video, and there's shorts, and so that's definitely where they're positioning. And we don't have time, but the same goes for their description. It's very clear that there is a certain positioning around it. So let's imagine that we get Descript as the client, and we need to develop their positioning so we can build the right website for them, not cliche. The first thing we need to figure out, what are our sources of truth? And for each project, it's going to be a bit different according to the resources. But this is an example where I divided to team. So the conversation you're having with the CEO. By the way, when I mention CEO, it's stakeholder. It could be if you're working with another party. For me, it's usually the CEO. Subject matter expert, sales and customer success inside the team that will help you. External sources, your customers, which Tali will talk about. Personal use, using the product. Competitor calls, and for data, you can get analytics, recording sales calls. This is a good list to have, so you know when you get some AI information, what are the sources of truth to validate it through. The first step we're doing in the positioning process is to identify the competitive alternatives. So this is not just looking at the competition. When I'm talking about competitive alternatives, it's basically the tools that your customers may choose if they don't choose your product, but also maybe not tools. So the status quo, maybe they're not doing anything. Maybe they're using freelancers. So this should also be included in the competitive alternatives, because basically it will end up in the positioning and in the website itself. So this is a prompt I used with ChatGPT, and it actually did a great job in giving me a list of potential, and not only competitors, but also the actual categories of tools. So you have DIY editing pro tools, and basic free tools, and AI-powered editors, and even transcription competitors like Otter. So really a large scope of competitors. And then I kind of sum it up, and my next step is to validate it. So how am I going to validate this list and realize what the company is actually competing at? What are the priorities in terms of competition? So for this, from the list I shared before, we're going to focus specifically on the CEO and customers. So CEO, because this is the start of the project, we're going to have the conversation with the CEO, and they know who they're competing against. And customers, Tali will talk about it in the second part. So these are the questions that I usually get. When I have the first alignment meeting with the CEO, I come prepared, and I ask questions about, I'm trying to answer not just the first step, but basically getting the entire positioning view from the CEO, so I can continue and corroborate it as I go on with my research. So these are questions with differentiation. Who are the main competitive alternatives? How are they better? What sets us apart? Why do customers choose us? And who is the closest competitor? Usually there's one competitor that's mostly going to be the fiercest competitor that you're aligning features against, and so on. Second, I'm going to get from him or her the sources that I'm going to use to get to my source of truth. So maybe the CEO knows about a resource that I'm not aware of. So I'm going to ask, who on the team should I talk to get those insights? What other sources do you have? Do you have other recordings that I'm not aware of? You have documentation that you can share. And of course, you need to get access and everything. Very critical. And finally, I'm going to ask about strategy. So what are from the website, what are the actual business outcomes that we want to achieve? And usually for these kind of projects, you're not building their first website. So if there's already a website, what's currently missing? Getting their perspective, very important, because you're basically building for them. Okay, so this is an aside tip. Basically, when you're having this process, it's important to do great work, right? To build the right positioning document, to build the right website. But no less important is the communication with the stakeholders, the CEO. So I try to profile that person. I'm trying to figure out what are the ways they prefer to communicate so I can create this enjoyable communication with them. So, by the way, make sure you keep this information outside of the regular information so the CEO doesn't end up reading it by mistake. So this is like, what kind of level of detail do they prefer? Do they prefer big picture or going into the weeds? What's the decision? Like, how do they make decisions? Is it based on emotion or data? Work style? Do they prefer to go through the rough drafts or get a polished result? Do they appreciate speediness, creativity, loyalty? And what's their communication mode? Do they like to work with you or like working on like in a Zoom call or working on ASIC docs? Nailing this, customizing this for every client or for your if you're working as an employee, very critical and will improve the work. Okay, next step is to list differentiated capabilities. Here we're actually going to do two things. One is just list the entire features and then seeing where we're better. So we're trying to figure out, we're trying to investigate, we're like detectives, we're trying to investigate what are the things we're going to, the product actually excels at. And we're from those like hints, we're going to paint a bigger picture of our positioning. But the first step is just getting the full list of features. And here, AI, ChatGPT's new agent is really good. So my prompt is basically so a bit of an aside here, when I use AI, a lot of the times I use it as if it's my assistant. So if I had a free assistant, what would I do? I would tell them, go to every competitor, look at the important pages, feature pages, homepage, product pages, pricing pages, and go through all those pages and list all the features for me. And that's exactly what you can do with the new ChatGPT option and other agents as well. If you haven't tried it, it opens like a browser window and it's starting to collect in the background. And another thing you can do, this is more to figure out which of the features are important for your users, because that's also something you're going to need to know, is to actually send it to scan Reddit. So go through a certain Reddit thread, this time it's video editing, and tell it to gather either complaints about your competition or like, and this way you know what's important for them. So you get like a list of outcomes, a long list that you have in Excel somewhere of all the features that the script has, like AI co-editor, script generation, etc. Next step, and this is the most crucial step of this whole positioning process, it's the validation. But this time we're gonna do it a bit differently. We're gonna we already aligned with this question with the CEO, so we don't need to do it again. We did it in the first alignment meeting, but we're gonna talk with the subject matter experts. This could be the CTO in the company. We're going to talk to sales and CS because they're getting the complaints. So they know which features people like us are the selling point and which we're not so great. We're going to talk to customers. Again, Tali will talk about this. Personal use. I love this. It takes a lot of time, but I really think that tinkering with this gives you information, gives you knowledge that you can't get otherwise. And recorded sales calls. Let's talk a little bit about this. So if you haven't used Notebook LM, it's a great tool. I think much less prone to bias. So if you have those sales calls, you upload either the video or the transcript, and then you can just ask questions. What are the objections? What are the features that people mention? What are the questions people ask? This is so great because you're not going to go for, if every sales call is an hour, you're not going to go through 20 hours of sales calls. And even if you do, your human mind is not as adept at as easy as just asking it questions. So I love this tool. Like I really am in love with it. So I have to say, we're talking about features. Sometimes features are not going to be what you get from everything I talked about. So this is an example that I had when I was at Elementor. We launched a new product, a support service, professional service where actual support people help you reach jobs that you had to do. And in one of the calls with one of the talks with an SME, with a subject matter expert, one of the customer success team, they mentioned that people like this solution, this service, because it's part of the Elementor team. But in the brief I got from the product people, no one mentioned that getting assistance from the Elementor team was a feature. Not only was it a feature, it was the most important feature. So we put it actually in the hero section of that product page. So this is just to say that sometimes features, AI looks very direct. Like you tell it feature, it looks for features, but sometimes you need to go beyond, and here the validation with the other sources of truth are really important. Next step, translate capabilities into values and value buckets. Here, it's like there's a saying by Michelangelo where he says, "I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free." It's kind of like this. You have a few hints of features you're better at. Sometimes it's just one small thing, and you need to expand on it and figure out what the benefit is. So I like to use ChatGPT here as well. So what I'm doing here is basically going through every important features that I discovered in the previous step, like AI co-editor. What's the feature? What does it do? AI that assists with scripting, editing, design, generating visuals. That's the actual thing. What's the value to the benefit to the user? Remove blank page anxiety, reduce manual work, and create faster. If you're going to use AI, it may hallucinate here. So again, leaning into everything we talked about, especially personal use, will give you a way to validate this. And what also I'm doing here is kind of bucketing this into different categories. So some features will be left out. Maybe will be like single things that you'll point out in the product page. But basically here it's AI, pro polish, like getting the video just right, and the fact that it's an all-in-one tool. These are the three main features that the script, value buckets that the script positions itself around. So there's actually a very direct process from having the list I just showed you to the actual copy. So sometimes you're gonna start with the benefit. So less work, more flow, make video so good it'll surprise you, obvious benefit. And the feature, write it, record it, then dress it up with automated design. And again, starting with the benefit, you don't have to go near a camera. And the feature, keep things engaged with GIFs, B-rolls, custom image for something nobody has ever seen. This time, another place in the homepage, starting with a feature, remove filler words, instantly cut out your ums, etc., and sound smarter and save hours. So you see how this is just, yeah, it's translated directly into the copy. Okay, so final parts of the positioning is finding the best fit customers. This is not a step you're going to need AI for. Surprise, surprise. You're just going to look at the things that you discovered, the features where you differentiated yourself, the value and the value buckets, and think who will care. For the script, it's serious but non-technical creators, teams who need professional output quickly. If you know the script, that you know it's kind of right, just to show you how different products that are closer can position themselves differently. This is the script, what I just mentioned. This is a competitor, Opus Clip, and their focus is content creators and social first teams who need to turn long content into multiple short clips. So the focus here is really about sharing. They also do the sharing. So social media managers, a completely different positioning, similar product. By the way, you can use AI to validate, to audit what you came across. So you can tell it, scan this page and figure out and let me know what is the positioning statement, basically who is the audience, what's the category, and what's the differentiator. And then it will tell you if there are gaps throughout the page. Finally, you reach the market category, AI-powered all-in-one video editor. Again, I mentioned before that all-in-one is something that I found bad in the copy of this of Riverside, but again, this is, if you're saying all in one, you're going to have to validate it with actual proof in the page. And this Riverside didn't do. Sometimes what you say in the positioning is not the actual copy. There is a difference. Now it's time for the second alignment meeting with the CEO. You're going to present the entire positioning that we talked about. You're going to hear what they say because you have to get their alignment. Moreover, I would suggest have another meeting after the CEO and you are aligned with all the stakeholders. So maybe the CMO, maybe the CTO, getting leadership and getting their alignment. And even moreover, getting the entire company, after you get that alignment, getting the entire company alignment, another important human skill you can develop. If your website is going to say something and the sales team is going to say something else, it's going to give, it's not going to be good for sales, and it's going to give a lousy experience for the customer. So I truly think one of the key things is getting people to agree. This is just a summary, and look at this table and look at like basically people who are pro AI usually don't talk about when to use AI, when to use human validation. I think this shows you that, I mean, this is my process. Obviously, you can try and test and discover maybe for this second part, you're only going to validate with fewer things. But you can see there's a process I can iterate against and see if it works for me, if I can optimize it. And this brings us to Tali's part.
Hey, hi everyone, just for a second. I'm going to do this. No. Okay, amazing. Thank you, Ben. Very interesting. And I'm going to tap in what the part of the customers, the persona research, which is part of the positioning process, but it also something that is coming in different phases of the company on the marketing work. So I'm going kind of to show how I'm doing this and how you can implement this again in different phases of your work.
Just a note, Tali, just a note for everyone, if someone can't stay until the end or something like that, we have a community where we in WhatsApp. So if someone wants to join, be sure to DM us after this talk.
Thank you, Ben. So this is a general note. I'm going to use the word users, but we have customers, especially in B2B. The people that are paying for the product are not the same people that are using. So it's important to research all the personas that are related to us. So why does this matter? Why should we include users in our positioning process? Need to speak to our audience. So we first need to truly understand them. We need to get to know them. And we can do this with AI. We can just go to the chat and say, hey, this is the people I think using my product, and to ask them to do the job. But eventually it is as eliminating the real people that are using our product. So I deeply believe that we need to keep doing the job of actually speaking with our audience. And to do this, proper research that will help us perceive the product, the value they're getting from our product, and the reason they're using this. It will show us who they are, what are their motivations, what are their needs, what are their real pain points in life, but also related in their professional scene, and what they're struggling with. It will help us spot opportunities that we might otherwise miss if we don't take the time to listen to our users. And it's very important also to have the lingo, especially if it's a niche industry or a specific culture. This is like very important to understand how they're describing, which terminology and words they're using to describe again, their industry, their professional, and also features. Sometimes I had experience that our users referred when they spoke about our product in specific terms that we internally didn't use that. So it's important kind of to do that to create kind of trust and resonate with our target audience. So what's included in the research? So a lot of time when people hear that, they're saying, okay, so you need to do a survey, or in the past you had to do like focus groups. But it's much broader than that. And I think especially today, it's very important to understand that everyone, like it doesn't matter what's your rank or what's your role in the company. If you want to speak with a user, you can just kind of do that pretty much easily. You don't need budgets. You don't need kind of special tools. Everyone has Zoom, Meet, and any type of LLM. So what I believe should be done in the research is, first of all, one-on-one calls with a variety of our users and persona. The online research, which is pretty much easy today with AI tools. We can kind of do research in any public space out there, like then also addressing the competitive, but it also not just for competitors, but it also kind of everywhere that the users are, like if it's Facebook, if it's social media, if it's communities out there. And the last thing, it's also important to validate our findings. So for this, doing surveys and also kind of listening and getting the information from the support and CS calls, which is also like a gold mine of its own. It's also important to do it as part of the research. So now I wanted to tell you how I did it in my last company. So I joined like it's an early stage startup, and we needed to refine our like one source of truth. We call this like the one pager for the messaging and for everything. We knew that there is a problem there. Okay, like when you're starting a new company, you're trying a lot of things. You're looking for your product market fit, and while our messaging and website were very kind of B2B oriented, we already knew that most of our users are individual business owners and inspiring entrepreneurs. And we wanted kind of to do this process so we can make sure that our messaging is matching the actual users that are using our product, which were brought like organically through other ways and not through our direct messaging at the website. So I started to speak with early adopters and power users, and I also found among our power users some topic experts that were leaders in their communities, which is also very important because they brought not only their voice but also like the voice of their communities, which can also be like a great help for part of the research. So I ran a set of interviews with a few people, and I created like based on the outcomes, the persona card. At the end of this webinar, we'll share like a template with questions I'm asking throughout the interviews as part of this research. And how did I do that? Like, how did I collect this data? Starting with my own, like doing the calls at the human side, and kind of how did I use AI in this? So first of all, I'm making sure that I have a transcribing tool. Okay, not just the video recording, which is sometimes harder to pull the information, but actual transcript from the call itself. After that, I'm taking this transcript into Notebook LLM, which is like the best tool for me to do the work, which is matching the conversation, which wasn't linear, and putting this, categorizing this by the question basically that I had initially prepared. What is important during the conversation, I'm just going with my with the user, with the person. If there's an interesting thing or something, and continue asking and kind of like digging into it. So when I'm doing the categorization on the notebook, I'm asking him to do a paragraph with all the information and insights that are not part of the questions, because I don't want to lose it. And sometimes the insights there are much more important even than the regular question. So after I'm getting all this together, I'm going to one of the chats, JetGPT or Claude, and asking him to kind of find a pattern, again, based on the categories I'm giving him, alternative, differentiators, the values, the proof, like quotes from the users that were powerful, and create me kind of a table with all of this and based on the interviews, which then I'm going over that table, making sure that I remember that everything that is important is there. I'm double checking it. I'm also asking it not to invent or add any information that is not in the document, and also kind of to keep the same tone of voice so it won't kind of change things. And the important thing here is the combining is not just kind of relying on the, okay, so this is the table, this is it, and just passing it on. It's actually making sure that what's written there is correct, that I remember this. And if I remember something, it's the thing to add the information. And after that, I'm also kind of doing like the summary of the patterns and the insights to create the persona card and kind of take it forward to our source of truth. So this is an example of how after doing the interviews, and we also had a survey, in this case in my last company, and doing a lot of surveys, of course, because the goal of the survey was to validate the quality research with quantitative data. It's also important to do, and to make sure that what we heard in conversation, the one-on-one, is actually also applied to other users. Our website, like I said here, was very kind of a B2B, speaking about empowering sales teams, winning customers, and our actual user were small business owners, individuals, just kind of trying to get a living, get more money for education for your kids, for a bit like a better life, for traveling, not to be like the best business owners out there and to build big businesses. So our change was kind of using the lingo of our users who were using this kind of your business at your fingertips. This is something we actually took from our users and kind of really kind of being more direct, more simple for again for the findings that we found in these user interviews. And of course, it kept evolving as we kept looking for our exact messaging and everything, which should be done. But I think that after the minute we have the framework of the user interviews, the questions and the flow of the AI assistant in this, so it's kind of easy to keep doing this research, this interviews and research on an ongoing basis and to validate everything we're finding. So some interview tips. So don't lead with assumption. For example, when we're doing like the competitor analysis, so in most cases, don't give them the competitors, okay? Just ask them what are we using before you were using us? Did you consider other alternatives? Like when don't like, okay, what do you think about, you can ask what they think about X, Y, Z, but you will get like, it won't give you like who they think are your competitors. So make sure you're not kind of asking open questions, understand their hidden motivations. So my motivation here is kind of to save time. Oh, great, amazing. But why do you want to save time? What will you do with the extra time? I will spend more time with my kid. I will spend more time with my family. I will travel, or I will increase my business. Okay, so it depends. If the majority of the motivations of our users is to spend time with their families, this is what will highlight in our messaging at the end versus motivations like I want to be rich, or I want to grow my business, I want to be a millionaire, etc. And again, the motivation was to save time, the one that is kind of out there. Don't interview only your champions. It's easier to get at them. They're very supportive. They're kind of would love to speak with you, but are like a small proportion. And it's really important also to speak with the people that are kind of less active or kind of maybe angry sometimes. These are the best. Dig into emotion, understand what's their frustration, what they're excited about, maybe the features that I think that they're most exciting, they're not. Maybe the most exciting feature is like your boring search function because it's really helping them find things easier. I can tell that in the last startup, we didn't have a search feature, and this was a very big pain point. And it was an issue to create this one for a long time, and it wasn't prioritized. And one of our competitor saw that, and I will speak about it in the online research. And they actually made a campaign about we have a search feature, okay, because they understood how painful and it was for our users. Listen more than you talk. Let them speak, okay? Just like let them feel open up. Let them feel that you're listening to them. People want to be heard. Most of the people want to speak, and going back to the kind of hidden motivation, I always like to ask, what are your dreams, professional or personal? Because it's helping me to understand what are kind of aspirations in life. And then again, if I see a pattern, we can use this and we can also try to help them. Okay, the idea is also coming from community. We want to help them, not just to sell our product. We want them to be happy, we want them to be successful, and yeah, they probably would like to use our product if we have a good product. Okay, so moving on to our kind of online research, which will also be kind of our last point for today. Online research is again, it's not anything, but today with the tools of AI, and they're kind of, it's much easier to do that. When I'm speaking about online research, we're speaking about online communities, public forums, of course, social media out there, and everything on the web, which is also very confusing and sometimes not relevant. So when I'm doing research, we do need to have it like step by step to understand what are the right places to actually do this research. Open communities, we can find them on Reddit, Twitter, Facebook groups, LinkedIn discussion. We also have closed communities, which is another thing. Especially if you have your own closed community, it's also a very good place to do the research and you have access there. It's very important to kind of to get this unfiltered insight and conversation. Okay, it's like being a fly in the wall for example, in non-official communities, also in official ones, but especially in the unofficial places. Verdi here can definitely agree on that, I believe, because this is like the real feedback, the real conversation. It's what your users really telling about you, from the good things to the bad things. Let's see an example that I found from Notion. Okay, let's say I'm working in Notion and my task is currently to understand what value users get from using Notion. And we are going like for a specific persona because they have a lot of them. So what I did, I asked ChatGPT to find me, and I know that there's a lot of discussion on Reddit, so for example, focusing on Reddit, to find me subreddits that have conversation about Notion. And I want to find what the value that users are finding and what are the questions that users are asking about Notion, again, the value proposition, not on the technical side of things. And I came across this question, somebody kind of the messaging and what Notion is talking about. He's saying that it seems like it's fake productivity. It's not a person who's using, is considering using, but he feels something is not like it's not authentic. Something is not like it's too good to be true in some ways. And so this is one thing how people sometimes we're doing things too perfectly, and it's like losing this authenticity, and especially in the AI era, it's very important to kind of maintain our authentic relationship with our audience. So some of the answers, got a lot of answers to this post, but one of the answers that got my attention was the one with the emotional value, okay? And the use of terminology that later on can be used by Notion, okay? And they're kind of review social proof and messaging. And this user said that Notion is her second brain, okay, which is kind of really giving Notion a technical tool, like a personality, and also the fact that it's helping her with her health. Okay, it's keeping her healthy and saving her life, basically, which is a very strong emotional connection that she's doing with the product. That means that the impact that our technical productivity, clean, techie product has on people's life is much more like higher important than we're speaking about. Now, it's our decision if we want to speak about it or not, but it's important kind of to find this and see this and understand this value. On this note, if somebody watched the last OpenAI release when they spoke about ChatGPT, they brought a couple on stage and like millions of people speaking about how ChatGPT helped with cancer treatment recommendation and manage health issues. Okay, so brands are trying also to connect this like emotional and personal, really kind of issues or kind of situations to other tools to create emotion and kind of highlight the value, which is much more than just technical tool, which eventually will get more people to use this tool. Okay, so some tips and suggestions about online research. So first of all, go where your users are talking. Okay, make sure you're there. If it's, I know you have developers, so go to GitHub, Discord, whatever, to browse those, to take this information and kind of do the gist with AI. Track competitor spaces. Okay, if you have communities of competitors, go to check what are their users complaining about. Okay, so you can help with differentiators there. Get the language. Again, there's for example, for our industry, they had a specific language, and it was very important for us to speak in this language so they can really kind of rely and trust and get the feeling that we are listening to them and also that we understand them. Spot trends, see what's the pain points, what the shifting need, what emerging behaviors. The AI is disrupted a lot of companies, a lot of products. So making sure that if you have a product that is using AI or anything else and there is disruption in your field, identifying this and making sure you're putting it in your positioning and messaging on time. It's very important. And using AI wisely. Ask always links to the resources. I had a lot of times I asked the link, I went inside and I didn't find information that ChatGPT was showing me about this link. And I confronted him and I said, okay, I don't say this in the article. And yes, you're right, it's not in the article. But if I haven't went to look for this, I might use information which I don't know if it's real or not. So this is very important. And that's it. It was a short version. We're kind of coming to the end of our webinar today. So at the end, we're going to share in our WhatsApp community, we're going to share this positioning and persona research template for the questions and clauses we're using in our work. And then we'll elaborate about the community.
So yeah, thanks, Tali, for a great presentation. So basically, we have the WhatsApp group where we're going to keep you posted on our efforts and exploration. We only shared a part of